Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to come and bring you this episode all about manifesting my most positive birth experience and why I think this is something that all expectant mothers should be doing and should be hoping for, and why societal conditioning, as with every piece of conditioning, how societal conditioning has really actually probably ruined the experience for a lot of women, and how I've basically learned to flip the switch on the narrative, and how I've shifted my paradigm around birthing so that I could create the most beautiful positive experience for the birth of my son, Casper Zane Hibbert. So weird to say out his name, and I'm like, oh my god, he belongs to me, he's my boy. I've been in such a newborn bubble. It's day 5, and I literally have spent so many hours just staring at him over the last 5 days, and I thought, do you know what, I need to come and film this video, do my podcast, and share this experience with everybody, because it really was better than I could have ever manifested. So let's dive into a little bit of context of to why it was really important to me. So number one, this is going to be my last child, and I wanted to end my decade-long worth of pregnancy and birthing and all of that with the most incredible last experience. And I really wanted to make sure that I was putting the effort into manifesting it, so that I could be able to share this story with you guys, this video, at the end of the experience. So just a little bit of context. I fell pregnant with my first daughter when I was 26 years old. So, for me, I had been subjected to probably over a decade, maybe more than that, of conditioning from film, TV, media around birth. Most of us watch TV shows, watch media, watch whatever, movies, and birth is this really painful, really dramatic, really intense experience, and you don't ever see this kind of like woman who's like, and then like empowered by it. It's always quite negative and dramatic and over the top, and it slowly drip feeds this message to women that labour is going to be this awful experience for most people. So for me, I was absolutely terrified. From the minute I found out that I was pregnant, I was absolutely terrified of labour. I dug my head in the sand. I didn't read any books. I didn't want to know about labour. And when it came to the actual day when my waters broke unexpectedly at 36 weeks and 4 days, I was so in shock because, number one, I was expecting a due date. I'd been told I was due on a certain day. This is another one of the biggest pieces of bollocks ever in the world, is that a baby's due on a specific date. Like, it is just so nonsensical that every baby would be due on a date. And my midwife, she was like, I tried to tell women it's like a due month. And that was such a sage piece of like information, because the problem is that when you have a due date and your baby is born before or after that due date, you end up going into a state of stress, like especially if women go over due. From the minute that you pass that due date, there's this sense of like stress, anxiety. Oh my God, like when's the baby coming? When's the baby coming? Da, 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 da. And because of that, what that does is actually stops the natural production of all the natural hormones, the oxytocin, because you're now in stress mode, even if it's a low level stress. Oh, I'm overdue, talk of inductions, talk of this, and you actually stop your body naturally labouring. So number one, due dates are just the biggest load of BS. Like, you've got like this period of time from 37 weeks to 42 weeks where a baby can come when it's ready. And I just think that's one thing that I would love to share with everybody as part of your positive birth experience. And when it comes to manifesting it, is for you just to also let go of that due date. That was something that I really, like, when people kept asking, like, when are you due? I kept saying to them, I'm due when my baby wants to come. I'm due when my baby's ready to hear. And people would keep asking me due date, and it used to annoy me because I was like, there is no due date. Number one, the hospital gave me a due date that was 8 days out. It was like a biological impossibility that I was due on that day, because by their estimations, I would have conceived 3 or 4 days into my cycle. It just didn't make any sense. So anyways, never mind about that. That's the first piece of advice I want to give every single woman. If you want to manifest your perfect birth experience, number one, let go of the due date, okay? Let go of what computer says when your baby is going to be ready. Your baby will be ready when he or she is ready to enter this side of your womb. So back to the fear of labours and things like that. So I was absolutely terrified with Layla. I ended up, the minute I started getting contractions with Layla, I went into a state of complete panic and I went for an epidural. My actual first labour was pretty quick as first labours go, and considering I had an epidural, which slowed down the process because it does, one of the things that I didn't know about because I never read about it because I was too scared to read about anything, and ended up actually with the baby in distress, and her having to be ventoused out, I having to have an episiotomy, all things which are trauma to the body, trauma to the baby, have an impact on a baby, and you know that birth experience for a baby is just as important for that baby as it is for you, and making it the best experience. So I didn't understand any of this back in 2012. You know, as a first time mom, 27 years old, never read a book on labour because I didn't want to because I was too scared, right? So with Safia, my second daughter, who I had 7 years ago, I was adamant I was going to get an epidural again. Like, I'd done it once. I know what I was in for. And she had different plans. Like, the universe had different plans for me, different lessons. Wanted to show me that I could do it without any pain relief, even though it was the most intense, dramatic, and for me was a horrible experience. Because of the fact that, once again, didn't understand labour, didn't understand physiology, didn't understand what was happening in my body, didn't care to understand, because I was so scared that I let my fear dictate. And it's just completely illogical that you're going to go through this huge experience in your life and you just dig your head in the sand. And that's what I did. So once again, and I didn't get an epidural. I couldn't get an epidural because my labour was so quick that when he went to go and put the needle in my back, the head was already coming out. And I was screaming and effing and blinding, and I was just so terrified the whole way through it. And then the day after I gave birth to Safia, I remember being in the shower thinking, I'm so upset with myself that I didn't, that was the experience that I had as my birth. So when it came to my third daughter, I decided to do things very differently. Of course, by the time that I had Amira Jasmine in 2018, I was a completely different person. You know, I was a coach now, I had a business, I'd done so much mindset work, and I was ready to have an empowered birth. So for me, that was my first experience of manifesting a positive birth experience. But I actually made a few errors on that way. So there's a few things that I didn't know that I wanted, that I wish I'd known that I wanted, and things like that. So for example, with this birth, with my son Casper, let me go back to Mira. So my waters broke at 6:00 in the evening, and she didn't come till 3:17 in the morning, which was exactly what I had manifested. So I was like, the perfect birth would be that I gave birth in the middle of the night when my kids were all asleep, and they would wake up in the morning, the baby would be here. And I literally got that. And I wanted it to be on a weekend so my mother-in-law could be there. And, you know, I wanted, and in my head, I'd originally said I wanted a pool birth. But then throughout my whole pregnancy, I got a bit icked out about having a pool birth because I was like worried about like being in the blood and all this stuff. So I kind of was like not really committed to it. And I never once visualized myself having a pool birth. And on the day of my labour, my midwives told me I couldn't get into the water because because I wasn't far enough along. My labour with Amira was also so quick. My waters broke at 6:00, but nothing happened till about 12:30, 1 in the morning, and she was born at 3:17 in the morning. So she, once again, came really, really quickly from when my pains started, and they wouldn't let me in, and I ended up giving birth on my sofa. And I did get in my zone, and I put into practice all the stuff that I learned from hypnobirthing, and really got in my zone and had this really, you know, amazing labour. But at the same time, so this was something that happened. Afterwards, the midwife told me that I was bleeding a little bit, and she was worried that I needed stitches. And I was like, no. I did not manifest having a tear. Like, I was quite clear wasn't going to tear. And so then an ambulance had to come and I had to go to hospital after my home birth. And I hadn't torn because I hadn't manifested tearing. And the doctor was like, no, you're not got a tear. Sent me home. But all of that kerfuffle meant that I wasn't at home straight after the birth. Like I was, but when the kids woke up, I wasn't at home. So it was an amazing birth in comparison to my first two, but it still wasn't the complete experience that I wanted. So when it came to this one, I was like, right, this is going to be my last time that I'm going to birth a human, and I want it to be the most incredible experience. And there's certain things that I really want to do, and I'd learned from my last birth. So number one, I really did want to have a pool birth. I wanted to experience a water birth. I wanted to tick that off my birthing bucket list. And so when I sat down to really plan out what my birth plan was going to be, I was clear on some certain things that I wanted. So first and foremost, I wanted to have a water bath. Number two, I didn't want to give birth in the middle of the night because I didn't want to be exhausted. When it came to giving birth to Amira, I'd obviously been up for a whole day and almost the whole night before she was born. And then obviously by the time we got home from the hospital after the home birth and in hospital, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was exhausted. So, I had 2 young children there and a brand new baby. They wanted to be with us, but me and Rich were exhausted because we'd been up all night. And so I knew this time that I didn't want to have to, I knew I didn't want to be exhausted. I wanted to not be tired. And so I thought, so a morning birth would be perfect. And I said a weekday would be great as well because the kids could be at school. So I'd have the first day to kind of have my baby before the kids came back because I just knew it was going to be crazy. So I started to map out all the things I wanted. And another thing that I wanted was I wanted a midwife that I'd met before. Because with all my other births, I had got whoever was on shift. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. One thing I wanted Rich to be the one that caught the baby and put the baby on me. And to be really part of that labour experience, that birth experience. And so there was a few things that I'd written down. No tears, no stitches needed, happy, healthy baby, easy delivery, relatively fast but not as intense as Safia. So I wanted to be fast but not as fast as Safia. That was so intense. I didn't have a minute to catch my breath basically. So I'm about to share with you exactly what happened on the 9th of February 2022. I had written down all of my notes of what I wanted. I'd activated the manifestation in the quantum field. I'd visualized it multiple times and I made it non-negotiable because by every time I had a conversation with any midwives, any appointments or anything, I would always talk about my amazing home birth that I was going to have. And whenever a curveball was thrown at me, I would say to them, I'm going to have my home birth. This is what it's going to be like. And they would sort of laugh. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm going to manifest this. So I want you guys to just know those are the first 3 steps before anything is making sure that you are writing down what you want, activating the visualization in the quantum field, and making sure that you're acting as if, like tuning into Universe FM and reprogramming your mind so that it knows what it is manifesting and what it is creating. So I can tell you a few things about this pregnancy that was a little bit different and unexpected. And my little boy taught me so many things about letting go and surrendering to the universe. I had always felt like I was never going to go to 40 weeks. He dropped very low at about 34 weeks and was fully engaged from 34 weeks. So from 34 weeks, he was 3/5, like he was there. I had a lot of pain and a lot of pressure and a lot of discomfort the last 5 weeks of my pregnancy. And I was a real moany fucking bitch, right? For the last few weeks of my pregnancy, I will be honest, okay? But then, like, I had become, like, obsessed with, everyone was telling me, well, I hadn't become obsessed, but everyone just kept telling me, like, when they thought my baby was going to be born. Like, I did a sort of a fun poll on Instagram because I'm going to send out some free books, you can guess. But then I would get all the time people messaging me saying, I have a feeling the baby's going to come tonight, whether it be my mom or my dad or my sister or randoms on Instagram or my friends and or even sometimes Rich. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And then it got to the point where all of those dates had gone and I said to everyone, stop telling me what you're feeling, because actually I would then be thinking about it, even though logically no one knows. I would be like, oh, maybe they know something I don't, And so I literally, the minute I let go of all of that, I completely relaxed and just said to my boy, like, you come when you are happy, healthy, strong, and ready. And when I was I had a midwife appointment on the 7th of February. She said to me, do you want a membrane sweep? So for those who don't know what a membrane sweep is, I did actually have one with Safia. And the thing about membrane sweeps is the evidence doesn't show they actually work. And they are a form of mechanical intervention. They are a form of induction. The problem with induction is that if your baby's not ready, you can put a baby in distress. And for me, I was absolutely adamant. I wanted to do everything in my power to make sure that this boy entered the world with as little stress, no birth trauma, to end this world as the calmest, happiest, chilled out dude. And inductions, if you try to induce birth, and you might want to do some natural things to help, but when it comes to things like an induction or membrane sweeps, you can put a baby in distress if you're like, get out of there before the baby's ready. And I didn't want to do that. So I rejected the membrane sweep. And I said, she told me that I was 1 centimetre dilated. And I thought, she went, but don't get your hopes up, because it could be that you've been like that for a while. But I just felt like I knew my body was doing something. And I just trusted that I was moving in the right direction. Like, I knew he was going to come. I was at the end of, I was 39 weeks and 3 days pregnant. I knew I was going to be having a baby soon. So I didn't have a sweep. I didn't want to do anything. I was doing all sort of kind of like, I did have some essential oils, clary sage. I was using evening primrose oil to help, because I really believe it's helped me not tear with any of my children. I had been taking raspberry leaf to help with getting my uterus toned. So I did all the natural things that could help naturally encourage my labour to happen without any sort of chemical, mechanical interventions or inductions. So, at 2:00 in the morning, so I had been feeling nauseous for a couple days before I went into labour, which for me was a bit weird because I'd never felt it with the girls before, and I felt like something was a bit weird, and I read that nausea can be a very early sign of labour. And at 2:30 in the morning, I woke up on the 9th of February, and the night before I'd woken up at 2:00 as well, and I'd been up from 2 till 4. And on the 8th of February, I was absolutely exhausted, and I went to bed about 8:00 at night. So I'd slept from about 8:00 till 2:30, so I got 6.5 hours sleep. I had a really, really good sleep, woke up and I was really restless. I was tossing and turning in my bed, and I kind of got up, gone for a wee, come back to bed. I was lying in bed, and then I felt a little bit of a trickle of water come out of me. And it was so small that I kind of second guessed it, because with my girls, when my waters broke, they freaking broke. So lesson number 1, don't expect the unexpected. That's what, when it comes to manifesting stuff, expect the unexpected. So my waters broke, and then I was lying there, and then a little bit more gushed out, and to the point where my pajama bottoms were actually wet. But then I got up and nothing happened. But then I kind of woke Rich up, and I was like, Rich, I think my waters have broken. And he was like, really? And I was like, yes. And he came over and he hugged me, and I was like, oh my God, it's going to happen. And then nothing happened. So I was like, okay, maybe my waters haven't broken. Maybe I've wet myself. So anyways, me and Rich got up, we went downstairs, and he went to start filling the pool up, and he was like, is anything happening? I was like, no. But I was like, right, we need time to fill the pool up. That was one of my things, is like, I wanted this water bath. We'd actually blew up the pool weeks before and had it blown up, because I wanted to step into the reality of making sure that the universe knew, like, this is what I want my pool, it's ready for you, I'm meeting you halfway, I'm not leaving it to chance to not have the time to blow up the pool. So Rich has been filling up the pool with the hose, and In the meanwhile, I'm like, I don't know if my waters have gone. So I rang up the hospital and I said to them, look, I think my waters have gone. Explained to them what happened. They went, yes, look, sounds like it has, but it can be different if the baby's created like a dam. So it's like stopping the water, it's your hind waters. Anyways, a few minutes after that, I felt another little trickle come through and I thought, yeah, this is definitely what she was explaining. I had no pains at this point and they said, call us back when you're starting to get pains. So I called the hospital back, which filled the whole pool up. It was about 10 to 5 and I thought, oh, I'm starting to get some sensations in my body, contractions in my body that feel like labour could be starting. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting contractions every sort of 3 minutes. We've called the midwives. They are coming to the house with the gas and air hopefully soon. I'm going to try and see how I can go without the gas and air for a little bit just so that I can use it for when it really kicks in. But yeah, so I will keep you updated. I called the hospital up and about 10 to 5 and they said, how often are the contractions coming? And I said, well, I haven't timed them. She said, okay, look, go off the phone, time them and call me back. I said, well, quite manageable right now. I'm not needing anything. Like I've not, So it got, so Rich started timing them. They were coming every 3 minutes. So I called the hospital back and said they're coming every 3 minutes. They're starting to get a little bit more intense now. They're now borderline painful rather than just discomfort. So I had actually got a TENS machine. I highly recommend getting a TENS machine. It was what got me through the first hour without any gas and air or anything. And so I put the TENS machine on and we called them. I said that every 3 minutes, I said, my labours are really fast. I said, you know what, we're going to come out. So that was at 5:14. I remember 5:14, we told them to come out. And at that point I was using the TENS machine and I used the TENS machine all the way through till about 6:40 in the morning. And I decided I wasn't going to use the gas and air until I really felt like I needed it, to the point where I was like, I really do need it, and I felt like I was close to pushing. I also decided I didn't want to get into the pool, so I was close to pushing, and that really meant that I had to trust my intuition on the intensity of the contractions and really remind myself how it felt like when I had Amira. I got into the pool at 6:50 a.m. I had my gas and air now, and by the way, I created this absolutely amazing labour playlist. I didn't know this at the time. The labour playlist was 2 hours and 16 minutes long, and my baby was born on the penultimate song, which was just so mental, which was Ed Sheeran's Tenerife Sea. But anyways, I created this amazing music playlist and it really, really helped me get into my zone. I really focused on the music. It really helped to relax me. So I highly recommend that you create a playlist that is going to support you in your labour experience. Music and manifestation is amazing, and it's just also music helps change your vibration. So a few things that we asked the midwives to not be in the room with me and Rich throughout me contracting. And actually, when I got into the pool, I felt like the intensity of my contractions had gone up, and I had this strong feeling that I wanted to start pushing. Obviously, and then I started second guessing myself because I thought, surely it's too early. At that point, I called my midwife in, who, by the way, on my manifestation list, I wanted a midwife that I knew, and the midwife that came out was someone that I'd already met now 2 or 3 times before, because there was a team of them called the Willow team at the Rotherham Hospital, the Rotherham Willow team. They were absolutely amazing. Every midwife that I met was amazing, understanding, supported me in all of my decisions, supported me in really making sure that I had the birth that I wanted. And in particular, Neve was the one that came to me 2 days before, was the one who told me I was 1 centimetre dilated, and sort of said, she said, oh, I'm on the next 2 nights, so if you have a baby. I was like, okay, maybe let's manifest this so that you're here. So she was actually there on call. So she came and I asked her to come into the room, because at the beginning I said I didn't want anyone to be in the room when the baby was born. But actually in that moment, I did feel like I wanted the support of the midwives there, because I started to second guess myself a little bit. Anyways, I felt like the intensity was getting, and I said to Rich, we're close, this baby's close to coming. And I looked at him and said, I really feel we're very, very close. So I probably need to caveat, I forgot to say that 6 o'clock in the morning, my youngest daughter woke up, and she was absolutely amazing, and she went straight across the road to her grandparents' house who live across the road. So that was really amazing because I was a bit worried about her waking up. My other two were asleep upstairs, and at about 7:15 or 7:20, it was very, very close to the end of my labour. My eldest daughter walked downstairs and obviously saw that there were midwives here, that I was in the birthing pool, and she kind of saw me in the pool. She's like, "Oh my God, Mummy, you're having a baby." And I was like, "Yes, I am, baby." And literally she gave me a hug, and we have a hug and a kiss, and it was all of the oxytocin that I needed for the last leg of my labour. And I couldn't have ever imagined that she would have been part of my labour experience. I never imagined that she'd been there, because actually in my head, when I thought that the best labour was going to be her not being there and then being at school. But actually when she walked down there and she hugged me and kissed me, and I said, "Go upstairs and look after Safi because we're going to have a baby brother soon." And she left and went upstairs, and I felt so full of love. And literally after that moment, I felt the urge to start pushing, and I looked at Richard and I said, head. And I just felt like the head was coming out. And then one of the other midwives, so the midwives actually swapping shifts at 7:30. So 2 more midwives arrived. So there was 4 midwives in my house, and one was filming, one was helping. So it was just like I had the VIP service. And I heard the midwife Shawnee behind me saying, "Yes, the head's coming out." And I just stayed in my zone, listened to the music, had a bit more gas in there for a minute, and I was using the sound ah, so that I kept my jaw really relaxed and was breathing ah down into my pelvis to help push and breathe baby down. So you're meant to breathe them down, not to push. So I was going ah to push them out. And I felt the pressure of his head, and I could feel that his head was out and it was in between my legs. So what was different between this birth and my other births were with Amira, the minute that her head came out, literally a second later her whole body popped out. With Casper, his head popped out, and then I had to wait for the next contraction to come out. But because in that moment I had this really weird moment, and I thought something was wrong because his whole body hadn't come out, and obviously he was underwater, and I had this like weird like worry for a second that something was wrong. But then I felt the next contraction come, and I pushed out, and he was out in 2 pushes. So it was like 1 push for the head and 1 push for the body, and he was out. And Rich, Neve, my midwife, was there, and she said to me, "Noor, lean back." And I leant back. Richard got the baby out the water, put him on my chest, and the first thing I knew was I knew this Layla and Safi were outside the room, and I said, "Layla," and they both walked in, and they were there with us in that moment where he was born. And I could have never ever manifested it being that. And when I let go of the everyone else giving me their feelings of due dates and let go of everything, I also decided to really trust the universe and give me the most incredible birthing experience. And I in my head thought it'd be really stressful to have the girls there, which is why I kind of thought better if they weren't. But actually, oh my God, to have them as part of that experience in that room seconds, and it's all on video, after their baby brother was born, and was just the most incredible, perfect experience. I also decided I wanted to naturally birth the placenta. I didn't want to have the injection. You can go do your research on that. Do a hypnobirthing course. So I'm really, really blessed that I did a hypnobirthing course and learned a lot from my sister, Yasmine Kagger. She's does hypnobirthing, so I'll put her link in the show notes. I also had a private call with Kemi, who is Kemi Johnson, who's a birth. I'll put her information below as well. And we talked about naturally birthing the placenta because I was a bit nervous about that. And it took me 40 minutes to do it. And I did get a bit nervous about it because I got to about 40 minutes and I was starting to worry, like it's not coming out. I was a bit uncomfortable because there was a pressure underneath that, and obviously I'd given birth. But with the help of now, because Neve had gone and now Shawnee, the other midwife, had taken over, together she helped and she gently, as I pushed, she pulled on the cord and the placenta popped out. It was the most relieving feeling in the world, by the way, to feel that pop out of me. And it was pretty freaking big and kind of gross, but it was the first time I'd seen a placenta up close and personal. And no, I didn't eat it. It's not for me. And so, and I'm no judgment to anyone that wants to do it. It's just not for me. And I birthed out the placenta 40 minutes later, and she checked, she said, you got no tears, no nothing, you are good to go. And I was like, I know, because I manifested this. And it was amazing because even though I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, I'd had this 6.5 hour sleep before, and I just didn't feel tired. And actually throughout the whole day, we had such an incredible first day. And it was really interesting because the girls were at home. We said you can take the day off school. But they were so excited that they had a few hours off and they're like, we want to go to school. So Rich took them to school, and I got that first day with the baby that I wanted, to be able to be with him without all the kids there. And they got to also be part of that experience in the morning, but then got to go to school and come back. And it just went so amazingly that I just feel so blessed. And it was the most positive experience. And I just want every single woman to know that you can manifest and have a beautiful experience. And also letting go of letting go of the fear as well is a huge piece of it. And also allowing the universe to give you possibilities of things that maybe you wouldn't have known. So for example, for me, having the kids there and, my water's going at 3 a.m. I've never had waters going in the middle of the night before. All of those things, like the universe knew what was going to be better for me. So when it comes to manifesting anything, make sure that you do write down what you want, but also leave room for the universe to do its magic and to give you opportunities, possibilities that may surprise you and be better than you could have ever conceived in your mind. So be specific, but also leave room for the magic to happen as well, and for things to happen that maybe you wouldn't have been able to think of yourself, or maybe you thought would be bad and wouldn't. And I want to just say to every single woman here that's watching this video right now, or maybe a man who's got a partner who may be pregnant, is that you really can have a beautiful, amazing, empowering birth that is an experience, a memory that you will treasure forever, rather than look back on and think, oh my God, that was a horrific experience. And whilst I know that birth is different for everybody and things can happen, I think that the way that we perceive things and our attitude around things makes such a big difference. And I've manifested now 2 incredible births, and this one obviously surpassed my last one. And I got everything that I wanted. And I really just want to say to everybody, don't be scared of birth. Don't be scared of that process. Learn the things you need to learn. Educate yourself on the physiology of birth. Educate yourself on everything. It will be the best thing that you ever do for your birthing experience and for your memories. And I really hope that this has helped anybody that is scared of birth or looking at manifesting their dream birth in creating a positive experience. Don't forget to create a amazing music playlist. My husband was in charge of music with Amira, and let's put it this way, Madonna's Like a Virgin did not go down well with me whilst I was contracting. And so yeah, remember to act as if, and to really be clear with your midwives or your care team what you want, and to really step into the identity of that experience. Have an incredible rest of your week. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and hearing about my birth experience. So, my waters broke at 3:10. He was born at 7:28. It was the most quick and easiest labour that I've had in so many ways, but I know that's because of everything I did up here and everything that I put out there into the universe and the quantum field about what I wanted it to be like. So yeah, follow the links in my show notes if you are pregnant or want any help and to learn about how to create the most positive birthing experience, and to really not buy into all of the conditioning that perhaps we've had over the years around from TV and media, and to really also understand all of your options around everything. Like, I never knew that. I wasn't aware that I'd been given an injection to have my placenta, let go. Like, I didn't realize that there was an option not to do that, or the implications of doing it. I didn't understand about inductions. I didn't understand about due dates. I didn't understand about so much stuff that impacts on how we give birth. And remember, birth happens when your oxytocin is high, that love hormone is high. If you are stressed, if you're in a state of fear, any of that stuff, it's going to stop your labor. It's going to stop things naturally happening. So for me, surrounding myself with love and oxytocin throughout the last weeks of my labor was so important to me. And and also during my labor, I was also using clary sage as well. Clary sage to smell, because that really helps as well with oxytocin levels. So remember that oxytocin is what helps you labor. So that love hormone. So I was lots of hugging with Richard, lots of kissing with Richard during my labor process. Him telling me he loves me a lot to keep me protected and feel good. So just tell your partner to do that. But once again, you should do a hypnobirthing course, because it will change the game on how you approach labor. So if you've liked this episode, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I'll be back with some more amazing stuff on how to manifest and use your mindset. I'm holding a brand new 5-day manifesting bootcamp starting on February 28th. The link is in the notes below as well. Come and join me if you'd like to learn my proven 5-step method to manifesting anything that you want in your life. I cannot wait to deliver it. It's always an amazing, powerful experience over that 5 days that will change the way that you manifest your life and master your mindset. Until then, take care and goodbye.